Hey, what is up, everybody? Welcome to the Guilty as Charged podcast. My name is Steven, and I am the host. Joining me is my good friend, Mr. Tyler Schoen. Tyler, what's up, man? How you doing tonight?
Doing very well. Usually when we go on Thursday Night Football, it's a toss-up, right? Could be a good game, could be a bad game. Seems like this is one of those games that people aren't going to be super interested in, although there's a very big MLB game going on right now.
Yeah, there's obviously the Guardians. I almost call them the Indians. The Guardians and the Yankees are playing right now, and the Dodgers are playing against the Mets. So I'm sure a lot of our fan base is watching the Dodgers, be it through bitterness if you're a Padres fan, or pure excitement, obviously, if you're a Dodgers fan. So it is what it is. The football game was not super interested in. I'm not even a baseball guy, and I was watching the baseball game, but with the Guardians and the Yankees. So it is what it is. Guardians just hit a home run to win. No way. That is incredible if that's true.
Awesome. I don't really care much for the Yankees, so great.
Yeah. I'm trying to find a video of it.
Well, congratulations to all of our Cleveland Guardians fans in our live stream today. Don't know if there's many. Hey, at least something's working out in Cleveland.
Yeah. The rest of their other franchises right now are not doing great, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
Okay, so today we are going to dive into some trade rumors surrounding the Los Angeles Chargers, and then of course we are going to preview the Cardinals game on Monday night. So we'll kind of divvy this up into two parts. We're going to talk about a lot of the injury and stuff on Saturday during our Q&A. We will not be doing the injury stuff today. The Chargers, just to clarify, the Chargers did not practice today. Today's injury report was an estimated injury report. They did practice yesterday, so no official injury news from today. And we'll go over the rest of the week, the injury report for the week on Saturday once that is kind of more finalized. So in terms of the trade world, there were obviously a few trades on Monday and Tuesday this week. The Seattle Seahawks acquired Roy Robertson Harris, who I spoke about in my exclusive Patreon video. And then the Buffalo Bills acquired Amari Cooper. And obviously, Aaron Rodgers acquired his good friend, Mr. Davante Adams. So that leaves a certain former Charger, Mike Williams, kind of in lieu. He is not in their short-term plans or their long-term plans after signing Davante Adams. Davante Adams is an ex-receiver. Mike Williams is an ex-receiver. Davante Adams has a ton of chemistry with Aaron Rodgers, and Mike Williams does not. So the Jets are trying to trade him now. He is trying to get out of New York. And according to Diana Rossini, the Chargers are one of the at least three teams, that have called the New York Jets about Mike Williams. Obviously, the Chargers decided to cut him in the offseason to save some cap space. After they cut him, Ian Rappaport did say initially that the Chargers were interested in bringing him back, but the price had to be right. He ultimately decided to sign with the Jets for a $10 million contract. So obviously you can kind of connect the dots that the price was not right. Now he's potentially available through a trade. So Tyler, what are your thoughts about a potential Mike Williams reunion?
I think it makes a ton of sense for where the Chargers are at right now. I think two things can be true about the Chargers. One is that they are, barring catastrophe, guaranteed a playoff spot at this point. And I say that like knock on wood. I'm a Chargers fan. I get it. But given the state of the AFC, I think we feel pretty strongly that sure, they're not winning the division, but they're going to make the postseason because it's a bit rough in the AFC right now. The other thing that is true is that this team is not a contender by any means. And maybe obviously Mike Williams doesn't change that either, but it puts them a little further and a little bit closer. And right now, what this team really needs, at least on offense, we've talked a lot about the defense, but this is about Mike Williams. This team can't score in the red zone. They are struggling mightily to score in the red zone, and they're a horrible fourth quarter passing attack. They are one of the worst red zone scoring teams in the league right now, which is hilarious because if you look at the teams that are the worst in the league this year, it's the Rams, 49ers, Eagles, Chiefs, Cowboys, Dolphins, and Chargers, which is like usually you want to be with those teams, yet all of them are the bottom seven.
Usually good company, yeah.
Yes, they're all the worst this year. It's so strange. Obviously different situations for different teams.
Yeah.
But this team is terrible in the red zone. You look at what they've drawn up in the red zone, it seems to be Lad McConkey on some sort of shallow crosser or get him in space to get him to score. Hopefully, J.K. Dobbins rushes it in for a touchdown, and that's it. Have we seen anything that's really like, oh, okay, that's like their bread and butter in the red zone? This is the tight end they go to. This is another play that they go to. No. And frankly, the play that they've run the most consistently in the red zone is the 4 verts with fullbacks and tight ends and they want, which actually could function a lot better with Mike Williams out there as an option. So that they don't have they're 32nd in passing success rate in the fourth quarter. They're 29th in EPA in the fourth quarter. They need somebody else. And I think it works just fine for the Chargers to go get him. Keeping him was the injury, of course. Like, you can't keep him at that, at that cost with that injury history. But for now about 2/3 of his season, and we'll see what, the contract does next year as well. A lot of void years in that contract. But at this current price, it's a lot more manageable.
Yeah.
DJ Chark did return to practice, but he's not been activated, right?
That is correct. His activation window is open.
Yeah.
So the Chargers have 21 days as of yesterday to activate him from injured reserve, but that has not happened. He was limited in practice, estimated today.
So that's good news, right? They're getting him back. So maybe that does make things a bit tricky because DJ Chark's going to be your X guy. But I'm still in favor of adding Mike Williams at his current price to reunite him with Justin Herbert. The situation with the Jets, I understand why he'd go there. I honestly thought it would fit well there. It hasn't.
Yeah.
Even Rodgers is kind of being a poo and just saying like, oh, he ran the wrong route, and that's why I threw that interception. Even though I threw an absolute quack of a duck, 15 yards short, but whatever. I would be down for it because the Chargers need a little bit more juice in the passing game, and he's available. It won't cost much. There's a connection with Chad Alexander, the assistant GM of the Chargers, to the Jets. So I'm sure there's a natural phone call and relationship there too. I don't know. Arjun, send him over. Let's make a deal, Arjun.
Yeah. Joe Ortiz and Joe Douglas worked in Baltimore for years also. So they are very close and remain very close. And the Jets and Ravens have done a lot of deals in the past. So yeah, it makes a lot of sense. It was just real quick. It was very funny to me the way that Aaron described that interception. According to him, Mike was supposed to get to the red line, which in my understanding is the sideline. And so Mike is supposed to get to the sideline, and Mike runs the wrong route, but then Aaron throws the ball like 6 yards inside and underthrows it. But it's Mike's fault because he didn't get to the red line. I'm like, that math isn't mathing, Mr. Aaron Rodgers. That doesn't check out. If he's supposed to get to the red line and that's the route and you threw it to the middle, well, that's your fault, buddy. Yes. Anyways, I understand certain hesitations around Mike Williams. And like you mentioned, I think the previous contract played a large amount in the way people ended up feeling about him. But we swung way too far in the opposite direction. Like, people are talking about him as if he were an awful player with the Chargers. And that's just not the case. Like, 2021 Mike Williams, that season is one of the best individual wide receiver seasons in franchise history. Yes, he has been injured since that point, but in 2022, he was a fantastic wide receiver when he was on the field. He took significant improvement from 2021 to 2022. And then he took another step forward in 2023, and then obviously tears his ACL. But I understand it's a big if, but I still truly believe if he does not tear that ACL, he was on pace for a career season last year with the Chargers. So some revisionist history going on here. If you don't want to deal with the injuries, I understand that. I think that's fair. He very clearly is like not back to himself quite yet. Rich Kamini of the Jets pointed out that previously he generally averaged around 14.5 miles per hour on all routes run. And right now that is closer to 13. So it's not the same Mike Williams, but you're not paying that contract. So I understand some hesitation about the health, but I think if you kind of tone down the expectations to you're getting 30-year-old Mike Williams coming off the ACL, who potentially will cost you, $1.5 million to $2 million, depending on exactly like how the trade works out. That's fine with me. I think that's more than okay. I think you mentioned the red zone, which is a great call. just the overall verticality of the offense would increase tremendously. Right now, they do not have any vertical threats. DJ Chark will help, but that's not going to be a fix to the problem. Right now, the Chargers are the only team in the NFL that do not have a pass completion that has gone further than 40 yards. And of course, some of that is personnel, some of that is injuries, etc. So you'll get DJ Chark back, and that will help, but you still need an extra piece vertically, in my opinion, if you're going to make this like a more legitimate playoff run, like you mentioned. I think expectations for me have kind of changed because of the way that they have played on defense for this team. As it currently stands, the Chargers, according to Unpredictable, have the 29th most difficult schedule remaining, and their most likely seed projection, according to Unpredictable, is the 6th seed. So that's a very different projection than what we were expecting 2 months ago. So if you can go get another piece, and it doesn't necessarily have to be Mike Williams, but the thing about Mike Williams is that Justin Herbert trusts him tremendously. That is really the key thing with like a midseason acquisition. If you're going to go trade, like Bill Barnwell threw out like Zach Pascal, that the returns on a Zach Pascal trade, who Justin Herbert has no rapport with, are probably going to be minimal at best.
Yeah.
With Mike Williams, who he has 4 or 5 years of rapport with, the chances of getting a really, really strong value for the trade are much, much higher.
Yeah. I think it's an investment. If you were, I don't know, another team, maybe Joe Ortiz as their general manager would look at that and go, okay, like there's risk there. We've taken risks, but what's a little bit more? Like, give me a little bit more. And I think that connection with Justin Herbert, and of course the numbers we've already mentioned, I think that's a really good, like, oh, okay, like that would be the reason, that would be the tipping point. You know, maybe I would have gone 6 other different directions about with similar receivers or one more guy, but like, okay, this connection with Justin Herbert, that makes sense to me. That works. Josh Palmer, we were hoping for more this year. We could get more. He was finally healthier against the Broncos. Did look better, but it just hasn't quite been the same. So, you know, they tried to push the ball down the field to McConkey, didn't connect there. Tried to push the ball down the field to Darius Davis, didn't work there. It did work with Simi Fehoko, but that was just a heck of a catch. And granted, that is the Mike Williams special, right? Trying to make a heck of a catch. But if they want to continue to be vertical, I'm all for them going out and getting Mike Williams. Quentin Johnston, I think, started the year hot, but I think he's settled into kind of what he really more so is, like some of the shorter stuff, trying to get the yards after catch. And I really like what he did with his targets against the Broncos. But you want to truly attack downfield, it's not going to be Quentin winning at the X. It's Mike Williams.
Yeah, I think if you acquire Mike Williams, you have Chark and Mike doing a lot of the deep stuff. That's their role, right? And that, I think, just opens up things more for Ladd and Quentin in the short and intermediate areas to have some more space. So, you know, in terms of the actual roster, like, you know, people are saying, oh, like if they do this, they're going to cut Brendan Rice or cut Simi Fehoko, so they shouldn't do it. All due respect to those guys, but Mike Williams helps your team right now. And Brendan Rice might become a good receiver. You know, I do think that he, you know, improved throughout training camp, but he's not playing. He's wide receiver 7, like very clearly on this team. And I don't think people are going to be lining up to claim Brendan Rice if they cut him. I don't see that really happening. If they do, so be it. Like I'm honestly okay if you lose a 7th rounder and you get a guy like Mike Williams who can potentially take your red zone offense from one of the worst in the league to 20th. And that's a huge difference for this specific team. And it just makes a big, big help. So I understand some of the concerns, but to me, this is a very low risk, high reward potential trade. And specifically for the Chargers, there's nobody else where you can get this high of a reward with Mike Williams. Like the Pittsburgh Steelers, they were interested in him in the offseason. They're interested in him again. I don't know how much that really helps the Pittsburgh Steelers. You know, Russell Wilson is not really a guy prone to throw jump ball passes and not really a guy to, I still can't believe they're choosing him, by the way. But that just doesn't really like pass the sniff test for me. I can't really see that fitting well for either player. But with the Chargers, it just makes a lot of sense for what they are missing right now. And so I think for everything that we have kind of talked about, this is a very low risk reward. I think you can send them maybe a 7th round pick that could become a 6th round pick if he hits, X amount of conditions, whatever. I don't think it'll cost that much. And I think you get a guy in the building that Justin can trust confidently on 3rd downs and in the red zone.
Yeah, I obviously want Brendan Rice to do well. I want him to succeed on this team and be a starter, a future starter, whatever it is on this team. But this team, and they've preached it before they made any signings, like we are trying to win this year. We're going to be competitive this year if we can be. And sure, we've wanted Cam Hart and Kamani Vidal and all these guys to play. We've wanted Justin Boygby to play. All these guys, we wanted them to play, but they've made it a priority, very much so, off season, after the draft, after the preseason, to go get Tart and Molden and Haskins and all these guys, because they wanted guys that were ready to win and play now. And for the most part, most of those moves had paid off. Like we've talked several weeks about each of these players. We just mentioned again after the Broncos game, Joe Ortiz Executive of the Year honors potentially on the way. It's because they're finding these guys, these veterans, to play right now ahead of some of the rookies. It doesn't mean they're not excited for those rookies like Brendan Rice. Not like we're not excited for those rookies. But right now, step into a game. Anybody in the chat, you tell me right now, you want Mike Williams out there or Brendan Rice? You got to go win this game. Who are you picking? Assuming health for both of these guys, everyone should be thinking Mike Williams here.
They should be thinking Mike Williams. I think a lot of the fan base will pick Brendan Rice in that situation. But that's kind of where we're at. Sholo Man says that he would trade Palmer in this situation. I don't know how much you could get for him. Like maybe you could go to Tom Telesco and say, hey, want your former 3rd round pick for like a 7th round pick? Maybe that could happen, but I think I'm okay keeping Palmer in this instance just because like I do think eventually he'll get back to his previous self of health. And then, again, that could also help the Chargers offense too. It's a big if, but like Joe says in the chat, it has been disappointing to see Palmer be kind of a non-factor in most of the games this year.
Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of, I know he is returning from health and maybe there's a stock up there, but I'm not a huge fan of selling low on him right now. If they want to stock more games, well, then if he's playing well, like you would keep him. But you're not going to get much for him. So I'm okay. I know I understand maybe the logic of, you traded Mike Williams, give up a 7th. Hey, maybe you get a 7th back for Josh Palmer for another year. So I could see how that would make sense. But yeah, I would rather hold on to him because we're talking about Mike Williams being an injury-prone guy. DJ Chark is just coming off of IR. McConkey got hurt 4.5 times in one game. Josh Palmer, obviously injury report. Simi Fehoko is estimated, but on their injury report were 2 separate injuries. There's a lot going on in this. There's a lot going on in this receiver core. So I would try to hold on the bodies at this point.
Yeah, for what it's worth, Lad McConkey was not on the injury report today, so that's
crazy.
Good news to see, which is insane to me. The guy was going through it on the sidelines.
Yes.
But yeah, for those asking, if you trade for Mike Williams, you have to cut one of the wide receivers. And frankly, if you activate DJ Chark, you might be cutting one of the wide receivers anyway.
You have to. I think
you have to. I think this it becomes very difficult. The math is very difficult to work if you are, activating DJ Chark this week. So we'll see what happens. We're going to talk today about a potential, great output for the Chargers offense. It's a very good situation. So a lot of this can change. I think in general, I still would prefer was Lat on their injury report? I thought he was off. I thought he was not.
I can pull up the injury report. He is on it with a hip, limited estimation.
Okay, that's my bad. Shout out to the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man for correcting me. I apologize.
Do a backflip, Spider-Man.
So anyways, in general, I think I would still prefer, if they're going to go get an offensive playmaker, I still would kind of prefer a tight end. I think like the wide receivers, I kind of trust to get healthier, continue to develop. And Justin, I think, is going to continue to get healthier and push that group. If I had to choose an offensive position to go trade for, it still would be tight end. Like if you're going to come to me and say, hey, you can go trade for Mike Gesicki or Mike Williams, I probably would choose Mike Gesicki just because I think that tight end room has 0 pass catchers right now that I trust. So
Yeah.
I would choose a tight end instead of a wide receiver personally. But if it is Mike Williams, I'm in favor of it. I think it makes sense. I think it checks a lot of boxes for what they need for a smart trade acquisition. So it just, I think it can be a good move for this team.
Yeah, tight end would be awesome, especially with Hayden Hurst being hurt. He is dealing with a groin injury. Those are always fun.
Yes, and Jeremy Fowler said he is expected to miss time, which is generally like a potential injury reserve candidate phrasing. Yep. So we'll see what happens there. I know a lot of people want Eric Tomlinson gone, and right on cue, Henning says he's the new Trey McKitty. You can't cut Eric Tomlinson if you're putting
team captain, man.
Reserve. Yeah, team
the
captain.
Game captain.
But he's a good blocker.
He was actually solid.
He's just not a pass catcher, and like he's been that for his entire career. So Stone Smart should be your pass catching tight end going forward. But these design targets for Eric Tomlinson and Scott Malek on Scott Disley need to change for sure. Stone Smart should see a lot of targets from that spot.
Yeah, definitely. Yes, Eric Tomlinson, definitely not my favorite Tomlinson I've ever seen play for the Chargers. But I definitely thought that he was this close to being my unsung hero. There were some iffy moments, but like I saw him get out in front and block and do some work on some plays. I thought it was an improvement of what I had seen over the previous weeks.
Yeah, he's fine. He's like a Nick Van Ette, kind of blocker. So he's not great, but he's a blocker. He's not a receiver. So put those passing concepts to Stone Smart, please. All right, Tyler, any other thoughts here about Mike Williams?
Nope.
All right. Sounds good. So let's dive into this specific Cardinals game. Monday Night Football. Just to clarify for everybody, if you are not subscribed to ESPN Plus, you cannot watch the game. So you have to pay for ESPN Plus to watch the game. I'm sure there might be some streams out there, but people are asking me like, oh, can you get it for free or a free trial? No, you have to pay for ESPN Plus. If you don't have any of those subscription services, I do kind of recommend getting the bundle with ESPN Plus, Disney Plus, and Hulu. It's pretty affordable. $16 for all of those combined makes a lot of sense. Again, Stream East, whatever your favorite X stream is, I'm sure you could find one. But if you do not have ESPN Plus and you don't want to illegally stream, you're not going to be able to watch the game. I hate to tell you. So go pay for ESPN Plus. You can do it for a month and cancel it. It's not that big of a deal. Anyways, so Monday Night Football, Chargers, Cardinals. Let's start with the coaching aspect of this. Tyler, what kind of coaching strategy or idea are you kind of focusing in on this week?
Yeah, this is kind of the this matchup is fun kind of week for the Chargers. You already mentioned it. This Cardinals defense stinks. And they haven't quite had the returns on some of their rookies yet, or their previous class, like Darius Robinson in this class. He might play this week. I know his window to return opened. That was 8 or 9 days ago as of today. Don't know if he's going to play or not. Maybe I missed something. There's an update, but we just watched the Chargers have the highest pass rate in the league last week against the Broncos, which I wouldn't have guessed last week against the Broncos.
No,
but I thought Justin Herbert looked great. I thought obviously the tackles looked great. Herbert looked very comfortable. Josh Palmer was getting healthier. This team was starting to move. It looked more natural. Herbert looked more comfortable. It looked like maybe the best version of this offense. I think for the next few weeks, and you mentioned the 29th most difficult schedule or one of the top 5 easiest schedules remaining, I think you can let it loose. I think it's not so much oh God, here comes the Steelers, and here comes the Chiefs, and here's Max Crosby. They're going to face some guys for sure, but it's not quite the same. I think you can let it loose these next couple of weeks. So I want to see if Greg Roman's going to allow Herbert to just push it for a few weeks, test it, try things out, expand this passing offense a bit more. I don't particularly care what the concept is. I'm not looking and homing in on any particular concept, but did they push it more this week? Or are we back to the let's run the football a ton thing, keep it a bit more conservative and shallow there? Or do they open it up? Because I thought Herbert looked very comfortable. And I think in a game like this against a very, very bad defense, let it rip.
Yeah, I think a lot of the conservative nature for me kind of had to deal with who the team was playing as well as the health of the quarterback. So I do kind of expect him to be aggressive this week. The 100-yard Lad McConkey game is so close to happening. I need it to happen. He's played phenomenally. He was so close to making that happen this past week, despite playing through this hip injury and also potentially getting a concussion. We've seen some good moments from Quentin, good moments from Simi, good moments from Joshua Palmer. This would be a great week to get, obviously Kamani Vidal had an awesome touchdown this past week. This would be a great game to get him going. So I do think that this Cardinals defense overall just it lends itself to having a potential big game. And this is kind of bleeding into like my most excited to see. I think so. You look at overall the numbers, specifically in dropback EPA per play, the Cardinals are 31st in dropback EPA per play allowed, which is not great. That's not where you want to be. As we know from watching last year's defense, they're a little bit better against the run, but still they're like 18th, I think, in success rate, rushing success rate allowed. So this defense for the Cardinals is just it's not very good. They're missing a lot of the key players, but they have Kaiser White, they have Budda Baker. That's like basically it. Zaven Collins is fine, I guess. They paid a good amount of money for Justin Jones and Bilal Nichols. They have not been playing. You mentioned Darius Robinson, who they drafted. He has not been playing. It's rough. Like every statistic you look at outside of run defense, the Cardinals defense is pretty tough. So from an offensive perspective, I expect a good performance, specifically in the fourth quarter. That's where I need to see them be like a little bit more aggressive. If the game is close, obviously be aggressive and continue to do that. But even if they are ahead by 10, 13, 14 plus, I need to see a clean fourth quarter from this offense. And I think this is a great week to solve some of the issues that are kind of going on in the fourth quarter. We'll see ultimately how like sustainable it is, but no matter what the score is, go score some points in the fourth quarter. Like you need to kind of establish that part of the game plan, that part of your team, because this whole fourth quarter thing, like it's fine if you're not scoring against the Panthers, or, you're up 23-0 on the Broncos or 23-3 or whatever it was. Like it's fine. I don't really necessarily I'm not going to hammer that home, but when they play the Bengals, they're going to need to score in the fourth quarter. The Bengals are one of the best offenses in the league. When they play the Ravens, they're going to need to score in the fourth quarter. When you play the Chiefs again, you're going to need to score in the fourth quarter. So solve these issues now, even if you are up by multiple scores. That should not stop you from going out and working on your game overall. And I need to see that happen this week.
Yeah, great call there. Ties into what I mentioned earlier. This team, again, 32nd in success rate in the fourth quarter is not great.
No.
The Chargers EPA in the fourth quarter. Everyone in the comments right now is saying this Saints team sucks. This offense sucks. The Chargers are 0.001 away from tying the Saints in fourth quarter offensive EPA per play. Like it's not great, guys. And that's with Justin Herbert at quarterback. And I get all the different issues, but they shouldn't be that bad. So solving some of these issues in the fourth quarter would be great. Again, even if they're not scoring a ton, drain some clock, move the ball. You can't be 32nd in success rate in the fourth quarter. That's the worst it gets, guys.
Yeah, I think rushing success rate is fine in the fourth quarter. But let me make sure I get this number right. But it's overall like whatever statistic you look at,
I have it if you want it.
I have it at 39.4%, which is 19th in the league. So that is like fine.
Yeah.
They're able to salt the clock a little bit in these situations. They did that on Sunday. J.K. Dobbins had some fantastic runs in the fourth quarter. But, we're talking about this team now kind of at a different level because, the status of the AFC, they have massively exceeded expectations on defense. If you're going to be one of the worst fourth quarter teams in the league, like other teams are not going to take that seriously. And, we shouldn't take them seriously in terms of like winning a playoff game. If they are going to continue to be one of the worst fourth quarter offenses, it's going to be extremely difficult to go up against the contenders of the AFC, go on the road in a playoff game and win those games because you're going to have to kind of play a very aggressive style of defense that also the defense has not been great in the fourth quarter. So it's The fourth quarter looked like a real strength of the team in week one. We need to see it get back to that point after what it's been over the last few weeks.
Yeah, especially if some of these DBs, these corners, like obviously we praise the DBs. I'm not worried about Jesse Minter's defense. But as you mentioned, in the fourth quarter, things just start to slip away a little bit. They're not as perfect. So scoring more early, scoring in the fourth quarter, keeping pace, helping the defense would be great.
Yeah, 100%. The thing I am curious and excited to watch, this is kind of, blending into the same kind of conversation, but bless you. um, the script, as we know, in the first quarter is where coaches kind of shine. Coaches are able to put a lot of designer plays in there. They're able to kind of have some fun. Opposing defenses are not always like at their best in those moments. And to Jesse Minter's credit, the Chargers defense has been incredible in the first quarter. They are first in EPA allowed per play. They are second in points per game, which is kind of crazy to me because they haven't allowed a touchdown in the first quarter at all season. Only the Vikings have been better in total points per game. Whatever statistic you want to find from the first quarter, they're in the top two. They are a great first quarter defense. That being said, they have not really played against a great first quarter offense to this point. That is going to change on Sunday. The Arizona Cardinals are first in EPA per play generated in the first quarter. They are first in dropback EPA per play generated in the first quarter. They are first in rushing success rate. They are fifth in total points scored in the first quarter. The Arizona Cardinals and Drew Petzing, their offensive coordinator, they know how to dial up a first quarter. They are really moving the ball at a very high rate in the first quarter specifically. The other quarters are not as great for them. They kind of fall off of a cliff, similarly to the Chargers, frankly. You look at their other quarters, they are 22nd in EPA per play in the second quarter, 28th in the third quarter, and 15th in the fourth quarter. So you go from first to 22nd to 28th to 15th. It's a bit of a roller coaster for the Cardinals offense, but they are one of the best offenses in the league with their opening script. They have scored 4 opening drive touchdowns this season. The Chargers have not allowed any of those yet. So this, to me, is like a nerdy coaching battle of wits in the very first drives of the first quarter. I'm really excited to see what kind of answers Jesse Minter has for this Drew Petzing offense that has been so efficient in the first quarter. And again, we've seen him start hot every single game, but they haven't done it just quite yet against a first quarter offense like this Cardinals offense has.
That's interesting. I wouldn't have guessed, if gun to my head, I wouldn't have said Cardinals were the best first quarter team so far this season. Last week in the first quarter, they were 23rd. I don't know when Marvin Harrison Jr. went out. That's just 1 week. That's a single game sample size. Who knows?
Yeah.
So hopefully that's the case this week, that they're 23rd. That'd be awesome. But I didn't know that. Opening script is definitely something. You said the Chargers have not allowed a opening drive touchdown all year?
That was a stat I saw on Twitter. If it's wrong, I blame Twitter.
That sounds right. At least sounds right for at least the last few weeks. Yeah, that makes sense. That sounds right.
I was a little iffy on the Raiders game. That was like the only one because obviously the other ones were not good offenses. So
yeah, correct. No, that's a really good stat to pull there. I didn't realize the Cardinals were there. So yeah, how Minter handles that will be awesome. Definitely worried about the scrambles, but I don't think we'll see the same issue as last week.
Yeah, the other offenses in first quarter EPA per play, for what it's worth, the Detroit Lions, no shocker there, the Baltimore Ravens, Minnesota Vikings, Cincinnati Bengals, 49ers, Texans, Packers, Saints, Bills. So that's pretty good company. Why is George Karlaftis catching strays right now in the chat?
Yeah, we got like George Karlaftis overrated, George Karloft ass. Like they're not even playing them this week.
He's a good player, man. What are you doing?
He's fine. I don't know why I'm defending George Karlaftis tonight for our Cardinals preview, but here we are.
Yeah. So yeah, man, excited to see what the first quarter looks like. Fourth quarter has been an issue. First quarter has been generally great on both sides of the ball. And I think you got to set the tone early on Monday night. All right, Tyler, what are you most excited to watch? I think we've kind of talked about this, but did you have anything else you wanted to bring up?
I think we've kind of hit on a good amount of it. I'm just really curious to see how these rookies play again in week 2. Is like you do it once, that's nice. Can you do the same thing twice? Like what does this rookie class look like if they have to do it again against a better quarterback or I don't know, definitely not a better defense. But how does Vidal look this week? Does he catch another 40-yard pass for a touchdown? How is he as a runner? How's Cam Hart? How do these guys play? Does McConkey get the 100-yard game? I'm giving away a jersey or something when he gets that because by golly, you all deserve it because we need it. So yeah, I'm mostly just excited to see these rookies play outside of what we already talked about.
Yeah, and the corners specifically are going to play. It's going to be a bit of an issue for this cornerback room right now. So again, we'll see what happens, how the rest of this injury week progresses for the Chargers. But I would expect to see Cam Hart starting. I would expect to see Tariq still potentially playing, depending on what Jasir Taylor's health is. But one of those guys is going to be starting, potentially both. So that'll be a big week. All right, Tyler, opposite side of the coin here. What are you concerned about? What is keeping you up at night about this matchup?
All right, I'll be completely honest. I went through the list of everything and the players and all the things that I could look at. And I just came up with like McBride question mark, which isn't really the answer I'm going with. But I will go for it, I guess. Like Trey McBride, at least among current NFL tight ends, is a solid weapon. And without, we'll see. I get if Marvin Harris Jr. plays, that's what's keeping me up at night. That and Matt Prater screwing us over, whoever that kicker was. That moved us out of 4th place. So if he plays, that's who's keeping me up at night. But if he doesn't, Trey McBride is the next best option for them. I don't know how this defense will do. You did not love the Derwin James in the slot tape against Denver a ton. I was kind of indifferent to the whole experience, but they definitely didn't have like Dulcich is like I think last in yards per route run. I don't even know if he was even active that game.
I think he was inactive last week. I think their pass catching tight end was Kroll. I think.
Yeah, which basically is not Trey McBride. I didn't know the tight end's name last week. I know it's McBride this week. So there is a guy at quarterback who runs that I'm definitely more afraid of. But in terms of the rest of the weapons, I'm afraid, I guess, of Trey McBride and how the team will do. The last time they played a tight end that was pretty decent. He did well. That Travis Kelce guy did have a good game.
Yeah, I think the Derwin James, like he can cover the slot. It has to be a specific type. It has to be kind of a bigger slot receiver. And this week they would be playing Greg Dortch. That would be not a matchup I would be excited about for Derwin James. So I am really, really hoping that Dean Leonard or Christian Fulton, one of them can be healthy and the Chargers can stick Tariq Still in the slot. I think Tariq Still also is more comfortable there himself. And then Derwin can play Trey McBride. I feel comfortable with that. I don't feel comfortable with Derwin potentially matching up all day long against Greg Dortch. I think that's a bad matchup for him. Like it's you like few years back, like you're not putting Derwin James on Hunter Renfrow. It's like the same kind of thing. Like you'd rather have him on Darren Waller. Not that those players are equivalent, but that's kind of, best path to success. I think the Cardinals offense has the potential to put up some good numbers here, but the Chargers, what Jesse Minter has done with this defense is just incredible. So do I think the Cardinals offense would be better than the Broncos offense? Yes, absolutely. I think that's very, very fair to assess at this point. But I do expect Jesse Minter to have a plan. Specifically for what is keeping me up at night is the scramble ability of Kyler Murray. I think this is generally among the fan base, this is not a hot take. Like Kyler Murray scrambles and he scrambles very well and he's a jitterbug and he runs 1,000,000 miles a minute. He is second in the league in EPA per play generated when scrambling, only behind Josh Allen, who has, statistically for the last 4 or 5 years been the most efficient scrambler. He's ahead of Lamar Jackson in that regard, ahead of Patrick Mahomes, ahead of Bo Nix, who just scrambled for 80 yards against the Chargers. He is third in the league in total scramble yards. So I don't know if you saw my tweet about that. Jaden Daniels is 150 yards ahead of everybody else in that regard.
Sheesh.
So Kyler runs but he does also scramble to throw. He is an effective on the move thrower of the football. So that to me is kind of like where I'm concerned about, given what we just saw. I do expect them to have a much better plan than playing Bo Nix for the first time was. But if this becomes a game where Kyler goes chaos mode, he's a much better chaos mode quarterback than Bo Nix is. So that to me is a potential outcome where I could see the Chargers defense kind of struggling to get off the field. Maybe the Cardinals put up 20 points for the first time this season, which the Chargers have not given up. I'm just a little nervous about the outcome where Kyler just decides to run around and go kind of crazy and run for 80, 90 yards, throw for a couple of big plays on the scramble drills. And that's really the main thing that I'm concerned about.
Yeah, the rookies last week, everyone went down. These guys played well. When things went into full chaos, Minter's scheme is great. It's awesome. It's not designed to go for 5, 6, 7, 8 seconds. No defense really is.
Yeah.
And so if Kyler Murray extends those plays, it could get a little dangerous. Now, the good news is the defense for the Cardinals, like the Chargers could make up the points. I feel good about that. It's not like it's against the Broncos where it's maybe a bit more worrisome going into the game. But yeah, if the Cardinals, like you said, if they're that good at their opening script in the first quarter, Kyler buys some time, because this pass rush is still struggling. Like I think Brandon Thornton put out his top 100 or 50 players in terms of like pressure score, and he's charted thousands of pressures, and it was Khalil Mack was the only Charger on that list, and he was at the bottom of that list. That's where the Chargers pass rush is at. So Kyler Murray, maybe he has to move and buy time, but he might have that time. And if they can't get there, it could get a little dicey early. Again, I feel good about the Chargers offense making up the points, but going into a deficit would not be fun, obviously.
Yeah. I think this is a week where Chargers fans should be hoping Joey Bosa plays, because that would be fantastic. So that's just it for me. I think schematically, I expect Jesse Minter to be able to go punch for punch with Drew Petzing, who I think is a really, really good up and coming offensive coordinator. I expect them to be able to stop the run. The thing about the Cardinals is they're at their best when they can play action and RPO. If James Conner can't get the ball moving, then that's where the Chargers are going to be able to put in a much better position to succeed. And James Conner is a good running back. He's not like an awful running back, but he's not great either. So Puna Ford and Otito and to your chart, I expect to have a really good game against a pretty subpar interior offensive line for the Cardinals. Mm-hmm. And so getting the Cardinals into obvious passing situations, I think is absolutely crucial. It's crucial every week, but especially against this specific matchup against the Cardinals.
Yeah, I actually didn't even check how the pass protection for the Cardinals has been. I know Paris Johnson's been solid this year, 3 sacks, but I don't know. It's so tricky with quarterbacks like Murray, like how much you attribute to them. How have the Cardinals?
They should get Jonah Williams back. So they have Kelvin Beachum as their backup. He's been solid. He's like super old at this point. But their tackles are good. It's the interior. They lost Will Hernandez to injured reserve recently. He was kind of their best starter, and they don't really have much in the interior. So it should be a good run defense week. It's been a good run defense season. I expect that to continue. Maybe this is a potential good spot for Morgan Fox. It would be really good to see, a classic Morgan Fox game, if you will, because they don't really have much else right now.
Yeah. Geez, Kelvin Beacham's been in the league good for him, dude. That's awesome.
This is year
he's
13?
35. Yeah, he's 35. He joined the league same year as Melvin Ingram, 2012.
So this is year 13. Yeah, that's crazy. No,
good for him.
12.
Sure.
Anyways, as an offensive tackle, that's insane. And he's a good player, like he is. So, all right, let's get to our prize picks selections of the week. Not a ton up on the Chargers game. No. Again, they are a Monday night game, so it is a bit of a tough situation. Some interesting ones here. J.K. Dobbins' number is huge this week on Prize Picks. Again, you guys can go to prizepicks.com/guilty, code guilty to check this out. It's been kind of hovering around like 59.5. He's at 73.5 this week. The Cardinals run defense we've mentioned is a bad run defense, so I wouldn't be shocked to see him go past that. But what are your thoughts about J.K. Dobbins' number? You can pick a different Dobbins number if you want, but I think that's the only one up right now.
Yeah. You mean among all Chargers or just for Dobbins?
For Dobbins specifically, he only has yards right now.
Correct.
They'll add more once this gets closer to the actual game. But right
Yeah.
now, his rushing yards number is the only one up.
Yeah, they had some weird ones. I think last week they had very late a Morgan Fox sack, like more or less, which is so odd. But hey, they actually could have taken the more and won. Look, if you're going to take Dobbins at the more at 73.5, you might as well go with the Demon and take the more at 79.5.
Yeah.
Like, to me, Dobbins has that potential.
That's not that much of a difference.
No, it's either break that 74 by a lot or he doesn't get it. So you might as well just go for the next one because he can break out those explosive runs against a very bad defense. We've seen with Dobbins, it just takes one run off the left side and that's it. So,
yep.
That is a lot, though. But they didn't exactly lean into either Vidal or Haskins a ton last week. Not that they needed to, but they didn't have to. They didn't like turn it into a committee or turn it into a bunch of big rushing team. So I'll take the more. I will take the more on the Demon on 79.5. There's another one at 99.5. That's spicy. That's a little rich for me.
Yeah, 99.5. Does that mean you get like triple points or something?
I don't know exactly how they, because it used to just be like the Goblin, the regular, and then the Demon. But now you can go like double Demon.
Yeah.
Which is, what I call my twin sisters. But
that's mean.
Sisters catching strays on the podcast. Yes, they are very nice. Except for ages 14 to 22. But either way, yeah, I would take the more on the Demon, 79.5.
Yeah. You can get a Goblin for Justin Herbert touchdowns this week. Basically, if he throws one touchdown, you get the Goblin, which is nice. It's an easy number. Otherwise, it's 1.5 passing touchdowns is the Demon. His passing number right now is 196.5. So much higher than what it's been recently. So that's kind of a good sign that Prize Picks is kind of honoring what you are seeing from Justin Herbert. So
yeah,
I think we both kind of expect a better performance from Justin Herbert this week. But I think until we really see the passing consistency, I'm a little skeptical about 196.5.
Yeah, it's not a massive overcorrection because he's healthier. Both tackles are out there. The Cardinals defense is obviously not great. We just mentioned that. So I get the number, but he only just crossed 200 yards against a very good defense. But only just crossed 200 yards for the first time in one game. Who knows who's out there in terms of pass catchers? We feel good about McConkey being out there and some of these guys, but I'm not sure. So do we just smash them more on everything this week?
I kind of would.
If you do, I do like this week to be that week. The Chargers maybe have 400 yards of offense or something. I love the Lad McConkey anytime score at 0.5 rushing or receiving touchdowns. Right now, that's if it ain't Dobbins rushing, it's just throw it to McConkey and let him juke somebody out. Yeah. And they did it twice closer to the red zone, once to the left, once to the right. I think the one to the left was called back by a Palmer hold or something. And the one to the right, I still watched that 15 times and I can't believe he didn't score, but just bad footing or something. So yeah, just hit them more on everything this week, except for the Herbert interception, of course.
Yeah. I was trying to find red zone targets for the Chargers because I feel like it's been Ladd who has the most, but it's not been a ton, right?
Yeah, because it's the touchdown against the Raiders was Ladd in terms of passing was to Ladd. I think it's Ladd, and then maybe Simi might have honestly been the next guy. I remember a lot of sort of over the head of Simi Fehoko kind of touchdowns. I haven't seen. Have you seen a Disley target at all?
No, I don't think so. So according to Fantasy Pros, I just found this. I don't know if this is accurate or not. Ladd has 5 red zone targets. Joshua Palmer is second with 4. I only remember 2 of those.
There was that sick throw against the Raiders where he had to like.
And then there was like a corner route against the Chiefs. I don't remember.
Okay, wouldn't have guessed Palmer was that other guy, especially with him being hurt.
So Ladd has 5, Palmer has 4, Quentin has 3. That's the main 3 wide receivers. And then Hayden Hurst has 2, 0 catches. Will Disley 0. So Scott Matlock has more red zone targets than Will Disley. Oh my gosh. That's crazy to me. That is insane. Anyways. So yeah, I think this is a good week where you're probably going to choose a lot of the mores for prize picks, folks. And yeah, so hopefully you guys are taking advantage. Again, that is prizepicks.com/guilty, code guilty at checkout for a deposit match up to $100. We strongly encourage you to go check it out. It does help support the show as well as your own benefit if you're picking the right players, obviously. All right, Tyler, let's get last segment out here, X Factors and game picks. We'll start with the X Factors here. Who's your X Factor of the week?
Maybe he can pass Scott Matlock for red zone targets, and that'll be Stone Smart, the tight end pass catcher 1 for this game. And until Hurst comes back, now I'm not expecting them to funnel many targets to Stone Smart, but we were kind of hoping for a bit more Stone Smart, who looked very good in the preseason. We like what we were seeing in training camp too. He can, I think, as a moving blocker, be better than Hayden Hurst as well. So I'm interested to see how he does this week. I don't expect a huge game from him, but what if he just like has a nice solid game? What if he, and this is call me crazy, what if he even has more than 15 yards in a game as the main receiving tight end for this team, and even catches like 2 passes? Dare to dream. So that's my X factor this week. Not only because, it'd be great to have him perform well this week, but maybe he finds a bigger role moving forward.
Can he surpass the one big Will Disley screen outage? That's the question. Can he get more than 25 yards? That's the question for Stone Smart.
25.
I think he can. I think it's a role that he can excel, and he just needs the opportunity, right? Like, I think it shows the kind of trust that Justin Herbert has in him. That is, like, I think Hayden Hurst got injured on the second drive, and then the very next drive, Herbert went to him on a key third down. He converted, and then unfortunately we didn't hear from him again. So just let him play, man. Like, you don't have any other pass catchers in front of him, so I would love to see it this week. I think that was a great call. There are a number of players that I think you could call an X factor this week. Dan Henley has been one of the better players on the team. I think that's fair to say at this point. We've talked about him on the show a few times. Specifically in this matchup, though, I want to bring up his potential for a coverage game. Right now, as it currently stands, of any linebacker in the NFL with at least 50 coverage snaps, he has the 4th highest PFF coverage grade. And I think that matches up what we're seeing on tape. I think he's playing very, very well. He's forced 2 incompletions. He's been fantastic in man coverage. So this is a week where I could see him stacking up against Trey McBride a couple of times, the aforementioned Trey McBride. And then also the Cardinals run a ton of screens for James Conner. Like, they're running 3 or 4 screens a game for him to try and ease some pressure from Kyler Murray and get James Conner out in space. And James Conner, from a screens perspective, is one of the more productive running back receivers in the league. So the main linebacker generally is kind of responsible for those screen passes. We've seen Deion shine in those kind of moments. Deion has had some opportunities individually against tight ends. I think this could be a game where we see maybe an interception, or like we saw against the Pittsburgh Steelers, a pass breakup that leads to somebody else getting an interception. This feels like a potential game where Deion can get his hands on a couple passes, maybe make a couple plays.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. Dan Henley, oh man, just been so much fun to watch. Perriman had the highlight play of the game, but I thought overall maybe Henley played better. At least he has been better, I think, overall. Would love to see him in coverage take that step. Yeah, good call.
All right, last one. I'll go first on the predictions. I feel really good about this game, so we'll see how it works out. But I do think we see the Chargers score their most points of the season. I think they are going to get to 27. Wait, is that the most? Do they score more than that against the Panthers?
28.
I forget.
Chargers, Panthers, 26-3. Never mind.
Okay, so I think we're going to see more points than against the Panthers. I'm going to up it. I'll say they get to 28. I'll give them a solid 28 this week. I think they'll win 28-17. I feel good about this matchup. I think the offense is going to have a much better performance. running, passing, everything. I think it's just going to be a really, really solid game. I think the game script will favor them over the Cardinals. So I do think this is a game that the Chargers should win by a couple scores.
I like that. Yeah, I'm gonna if I can get my internet to work here, I'm gonna share my price picks update here for everyone, just so we're knowing that I'm putting my money where my mouth is here. I took the Dobbins, Herbert, and McConkey demons on the more.
Nice.
So more than 79.5 rushing yards, more than 1.5 passing touchdowns, and then McConkey's got to score. And then I took the Anthony Edwards 0.5 special because hey, that's price picks, guys. Like, go take it. Go use that freebie while you can.
Yeah,
I put in
100%.
$25, and if I win, I get some number of money. I don't even know what it is.
I think you have to hit submit before you.
I did submit it, so it has been submitted. I don't want to see the rest of my failed bets, so we're just gonna leave it at that. But I'm going for that one just for some funsies. We can celebrate on Monday if we win.
Nice job.
What I'm trying to also say is that, yes, I agree with you. I do believe they will score just fine. 28, that's 4 touchdowns. That'd be awesome. I'll just change it up a little bit, and I'll say 27. And I think the Cardinals will make it a bit interesting, but I'll say 27-17. I believe in this defense enough. We'll see how the injury report turns out for everything. But for now, that seems just fine. The Cardinals just can't stop anybody. Herbert's heating up. Tackles are healthy. Let's go.
Yeah, man, that last part is huge. So I think this is a game where we should feel pretty comfortable about this matchup. I hear there's a lot of Chargers fans going to this game. So if you are going to the game, I hope you have an awesome time. And yeah, man, I'm excited. I think the Chargers they're in a great spot to potentially go on a roll here, start earning some national praise about potentially being a playoff team. The AFC kind of stinks right now, so the Chargers are in a great spot to kind of seize control of the wild card picture along with the Pittsburgh Steelers. So it should be a lot of fun. Tyler, any final thoughts before we head out?
Still weird this is on a Monday. We're previewing it on a Thursday, and I feel like we know nothing about either team right now. But we're getting closer. Should be fun to cover this game on Monday Night Football. Hopefully, any of you guys can watch it.
Yeah, I'm a little bummed that this is the case. Later on in the season, there's going to be an NFL game on Netflix, which is crazy to me. I wish this game were just like on regular ESPN, regular Monday Night Football, but this is where we're at with the NFL, with all these streaming services and stuff like that. So, yes, before we get out of here, some final other super chats from Mexi Gamer, Dark Master. I wanted y'all's thoughts. It can wait till the end of the show. So Jesse Minter is going to be a hot coaching candidate this year or next. Thoughts on Bowman at DC, especially considering linebacker resurgence. Any thoughts there, Tyler?
Yep. I think I'm for that. I don't know who else Harbaugh could pull from a different team. I'm sure maybe he could pull someone from the Ravens, if absolutely needed. But while I don't think Minter is gone after this year, although we'll see because he's been freaking awesome. Yeah. Bowman I'd be totally fine with that, especially with his guys being the green dot guys for as good as they've been, the relationship and history with Jim Harbaugh. I'm for it. I think Elson's done a great job. Doesn't strike me as a candidate there. Klingscale, the DBs have obviously been, really solid this year. There's a lot of good options there, but Bowman feels like the next up and coming guy. And I think a lot of people are going to say like the next D'Amico Ryans, but it's kind of earned so far.
Yeah, I mean, obviously this current trajectory of the linebacker room would have to hold for Navarro Bowman in particular. But I think if everybody else stays, I think Steve Klingscale would be Jim Harbaugh's choice. Steve Klingscale was the co-defensive coordinator at Michigan, for what it's worth. He does have previous defensive coordinator experience. Granted, that's in college. He was even a special teams coordinator previously at the University of Cincinnati. So he's got a more diverse and well-rounded and experienced coaching background than Navarro does. Klingscale could also leave with Jesse Minter. They're very close. They have a very strong relationship. Klingscale could go be the defensive coordinator for whoever Jesse Minter goes to. Klingscale could also stay. Elston could go be the defensive coordinator for Jesse Minter. There's so many potential moving parts there that it's tough to really like pin down. But in a vacuum, I would be on board with Navarro Bowman as a potential DC candidate because I think I think a lot of what I'm learning about this current Chargers team is that really the most important thing about defense is not schematics or experience. It's like, can you get buy-in from your players and can you get them in a position where they can go be fast and physical? And I know Navarro Bowman will do that. I know he'll have this defense playing to what they are capable of from a physicality standpoint. Obviously, stylistically, his mentality would match with what Jim Harbaugh would want. I do think if we see Minter and Klingskill both leave, Bowman would be considered. But I also do think that Harbaugh would not have any shortage of external options if he wanted to go pursue that either.
No, definitely not at all. If there was an external option that, because there seems like there's going to be a lot of turnover this upcoming coaching cycle. We've already seen some turnover. So, no, not Rob. No. Saleh wasn't with the 49ers.
Robert Saleh? No.
He wasn't there with the no.
Different regime. Different regime.
Yeah. I wasn't sure if he was like an assistant, but yeah, no, he wasn't there.
Yeah. Sholoman mentions Chris O'Leary. That could be an option as well. I do think that Harbaugh of those two, I think, would choose Navarro. But I do think that there's no shortage of Harbaugh. Like the way that Harbaugh is being talked about and perceived, like people are going to want to continue to coach with Jim Harbaugh. So, yeah, it is what it is. That person is getting blocked.
Finished with a lovely quote there. Thanks, Reggie.
Yeah, love that. So, yeah, I think there was another super chat. Was there not?
There was one. That one. There you go.
Yeah, Shulaman says last time Kyler saw backup DBs hung 41 points on the Rams. Yeah, I mean, listen, like I'm not underestimating Kyler. He's a fantastic quarterback who can make things happen at any specific moment. So there is a potential scenario here where the Cardinals score more than what I'm thinking. You know, I'm predicting 17 points just because I think the Chargers defense has earned that kind of respect. You know, can Kyler hang 25, 28 on the Chargers? Yes, absolutely. He's capable of that. Trey McBride, Marvin Harrison Jr., Michael Wilson, Dortch. It's a good offensive unit. I just kind of am at that point with the Chargers defense where I'm going to trust them to handle this kind of matchup.
Do you have them at 17 points with Marvin or without?
I think with or without is probably the same, honestly, for me.
Whew. I'd give them 23. Well, if he's in full and he can go and there are no setbacks, yeah, let's say 23. Just target the X receiver versus. I know people mentioned the Cam Hart shutdown thing.
It's very different.
It's a little different. He played very well, obviously, so it's not like, yeah. I mean, I'm not trying to discredit him, but it's
Kyle McCord, Kyler Murray. A little different there.
Slightly different. But yeah, I think that they would cross 20. I think they would cross 20 points with Marvin if we're giving them 17 without, or if I'm giving them 17 without.
That's fair. Also, if Marvin plays, I'll say 20 as well. That's fair.
Cool.
He's
hey, kind of whatever. I want a shootout now based on my money. My money is on a shootout. So, or just do it Ben Johnson. Yeah.
Maybe we can get a 35-28 game.
Love it. Yeah. 42-39, whatever. Like, I don't care. Whatever gets me that McConkey. I just need that McConkey touchdown. You know, somewhere when McConkey scores, I'm cheering. Like that loud shake in the earth you feel is me celebrating.
The lad quake instead of the beast quake.
The lad quake. The McCon quake or something.
McCon quake.
Yeah. Lad McCon quake. Yeah.
That's funny.
That's a horrible one. Beast quake is way cooler. We'll think of something.
Beast quake was hard to beat that one, man. It really is.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Appreciate you so much for tuning in live. Make sure to like, subscribe, comment, all that good stuff. As you know, continues to help grow the show. We appreciate that. That's going to do it for us today. This has been another episode of the Guilty as Charged podcast. As always, bolt up.